Now, let's start our broadcast by looking at the Bomet governor, who has said he will not honor summonses to appear before the Senate Finance Committee to be probed on how his county has spent its budget allocation. Ruto maintained that the alleged misappropriation of funds by his government is a ploy to direct people's attention from the meaningful development projects his government is implementing in Bomet. Ruto was speaking in Bomet, where he was challenged by area senator and member of parliament to appear.
Kazi yangu pesa ikikuja kama ya Kericho 3.6 billion. As I vote in Senate, kwa hiyo pesa ikuja hapa, I have a right kujua ya kwamba hiyo pesa inatumika namna gani. Because I'm part of, you are not being summoned because your books are good. What we are doing, we are not summoning people kwa sababu ya kazi yetu. Tunaita magavana wenye ripoti yao imeandikwa na Controller and Auditor General or Controller of Budget. Enye umeuliza, je, bona hii pesa mlinunua magari 100 na mngenunua 20, hiyo pesa nyingine iende ifanye barabara. Kwa nini tunatuambia ati 32% of 2011? Kwa hiyo 32% of 2014-2015 ndio tuelewa. Don't fool us. 190 trillion is not 32% of 126 trillion. Let us be reasonable, let us discuss, and let's move forward.
Wiper Democratic Movement has launched a countrywide membership recruitment drive ahead of its National Delegates Conference slated for April. While addressing Wiper MCAs from across the country in Nakuru, Wiper party leader Kalonzo Musyoka said it is an exercise geared at strengthening the party across the country. Kalonzo further said the move is in compliance with the Political Parties Act that requires every political party to have a membership register. Kalonzo also commented on the ODM leadership, touching on the just postponed ODM election, where he termed the chaos witnessed as unfortunate.
That is what they're basing these calculations on. And we know CORD controls 3/4 of support in this country. Look at this Rift Valley. CORD, our sister parties of Ford Kenya and ODM, even control the mineral, the oil-rich Turkana County. And I can tell you, in the South Rift, Kajiado, Narok, we got a lot of votes. All the Maasais actually voted for CORD to Apigiani Makofi. It's a fact. So the Rift Valley is not as it was. And I'm sure that a lot of them, even here, are beginning to think whether they did the right thing.
Leaders from Taita Taveta County have rejected the recent move by the Ministry of Education to elevate 2 county schools to national school status. The leaders, led by Taita Taveta Senator Dan Mwazo, say the upgrade is the detriment of the local population, who are being locked out of schools which are now dominated by students from other counties. He said the upgrade will in effect deny many of the county's poor children access to post-primary education.
Na nataka haswa niambie serikali kuu kwamba hakuna tena kuchukua shule zozote za sekondari ziwe national schools, kwa sababu tumeona wamechukua Kenyatta, katika stream 4 watoto wetu waliochukuliwa ni 8 peke yake. Kati waliochukuliwa kule Bura ni wasichana 15 peke yake. Hata zile ambazo hawajazichukua saizi wanataka kuchukua Mari, ile shule ndikuweko, wanataka kuchukua Agri na wanataka kuchukua St. Mary's, wazifanye national schools. Ninawaambia a big no, and we are going to fight it tooth and nail to make sure that hizo shule zinabakia za county.
More than 200 girls in Kisii County who dropped out of school as a result of early pregnancies have benefited from a project aimed at ensuring that teenage mothers both get a chance to complete their education and are not discriminated against in various social settings. A well-wisher from the county initiated the project that engages both parents and schools such that the teenage mothers are not socially excluded. Now, the Kisii Level 5 hospital receives numerous cases of teenage teenage pregnancies, with some girls having to deliver through cesarean section due to complications. And the mothers, some as young as 15 years old, are often likely to suffer from anxiety and depression and thus receive counseling as well. The situation is similar to that in Mount Elgon, where 8 girls from Chepkurkur Primary School dropped out of school, while 4 others got married after getting pregnant. In 2013, 19 girls dropped out of the same school for the same reason, indicating how dire the situation is. And now joining me is Evelyn Ogendo, who is the head for a community-based organization, Rudi Usome Organization. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Joy.
Yes, how do we explain the increased teenage pregnancies in Mount Elgon? We are seeing some in Taita, and now we are seeing increased teenage pregnancies in Kisii. How do you explain that?
Well, something I would like to say about my county, which I happen to understand so much, it's about lack of information and poverty. Those are 2 things that are really affecting them.
Right.
But when you look at it on the latter, you have to choose. They would rather have the information so that they can know how to handle the poverty.
Great. Or when you say they can know how to handle their poverty, what is your organization doing to ensure that these girls go back to school, and how exactly are you doing it, knowing that they are living in a society that is discriminating against them?
Well, with time, with my work, with time, or some time back, because of the society issues, when a child gets pregnant, the parents are embarrassed and they don't want to stay with them and stuff. Well, I went to do school-to-school based cases, and I tried to speak to the headmasters I know who are not in school because of pregnancies, and went back to find out why. Most of them, it is out of stigma. They don't want to be seen as those mothers who are still in school. So this is a subject that I try to make at home, to make even the headmasters adjust their rules so that it can fit in the young mothers.
Well, what is going on in the rural areas? I know that there's increased poverty in some of these places or areas around the country, but what I don't seem to understand is that we are having girls as young as 12 years old who are pregnant, and then by the age of 14 they actually have 2 children. How do we explain that? Is there a study that has been done aside from poverty as a reason that is leading to these pregnancies?
All in all, according to me, the parents back at home, especially in the village, the parents are finding it very hard to speak to their teenagers or to their children before they attain the teenage age. So they shy off and decide this is a taboo to talk about some things. And you see, these are the same people who are supposed to help these children grow up. It is your mother who understands how she grew up. That's the only way she's going to teach you how to grow up. But they hardly talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. They say that's an embarrassment.
So lack of sex education.
Yeah, lack of sex education.
Yeah.
And charity begins at home, I believe. You got to train your child. And most of the parents have not, they have not opened up to their children. Their fathers, they have not opened up to talking to it's not about the girl child alone, because this girl child getting pregnant is not about herself. It's involved the boy or some man or somebody somewhere. So it is simply lack of information, and they are avoiding these words, these terminologies, to teach their children from at home.
So is your organization as well incorporating that in, as you're trying to take back these girls to school, are you also incorporating sex education with the parents, with the teachers, or with the girls themselves?
Well, there's a time I engaged parents, and they were looking at me like they're not comfortable with the subject, but that is the only way I was going to do it. And then I went mostly to the mixed schools, is where there's a lot of challenge. I spoke to them using the right words at the right place. And first they were not comfortable, but after I did repeat jobs, now they're getting comfortable and wanting to know exactly what are you saying or what can we do.
All right. So now I'm thinking we are having girls the age of 12 who are getting pregnant. At what age do we start talking about sex education? With these increased pregnancies, I think soon we're going to see girls as young as 10 getting pregnant. So at what age do we start talking about sex education?
Well, according to me, these days it's not like, I would say this generation is too digital, according to me. Now, like you tell, a long time you tell somebody who is in class 7 that you can go to the supermarket and buy a child from there, and somehow that person will try to believe it. These days, a child of 3 years, you cannot tell that kid that you can go to the supermarket and buy a child from there. So meaning they have a hint. So with age, the language you're going to use with a 3-year-old, it's not the same language that you'll use when this kid is going to 7, 8, 9, 10 years. You have to change your language.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Now, as we wind up, you were vying for the woman rep for Kisii County, and I don't know if it's the right time to ask, how did you feel now that, you know, everything turned out to be different? And then the other question I'm definitely going to pose to you is, are you going to vie again for the woman rep for Kisii County?
Well, Joy, I would say that it's very early to say right now, but okay, I went in for the elections. It didn't work out. I don't want to speculate that, you know, most of the time when people try in seats and then they are not able to make it, most of the time they say somebody stole my votes. I don't want to say that.
So nobody stole your votes?
I wouldn't say nobody stole, but my votes, when they were counted, they were less than the winner. So it means, and it has to be one winner, so it means I lost it.
Any
and
future
I accepted
political ambitions?
Well, I would like to serve, basically why I wanted the women rep seats. I really want to forge ahead for these the young mothers to go back to school. And then there's this section of their children, their unwanted pregnancies. I don't see anybody addressing that. That's something also I like to address. Maybe I would partner with anybody who is willing, so that we support the unwanted pregnancies that turn out to be unwanted children. You know, remember these children didn't say that I want to be born by this young mother. So those are the children that are not, everybody's turning a back to. It's something really I like to support. And then disease. You know, pregnancy comes a lot of things. Unwanted child disease and so many things.
I really wish I would have more time to allow you to talk about all the problems that are going on in Kisii County, but thank you so much for making time to come to KTN and speak to us about teenage pregnancies. Network SACCO, the cooperative movement bringing together employees of Standard Group, Citizen TV, China TV Africa, and K24 held its 20th annual general meeting today. I beg your pardon, that was yesterday. The meeting held at the Standard Group headquarters saw members approve a 13% dividend payout on their shares. SACCO chairman Alphonse Chalo noted after the meeting that the SACCO will in 2014 embark on an aggressive membership drive to grow its base outside its current realms. Additionally, members approved proposals to increase the share capital as well as the establishment of a housing unit to help them achieve their dreams of owning homes.
What if you have 7 days?
Once the doctor pronounces their children are deaf, parents often imagine that these children will never be able to lead full, satisfying lives. Francis Kaleli's parents tried to shield him from the rest of the world in that belief that his deafness would hold him back. But Kaleli had a desire to chart his own path. And this is how it came to be that today Kaleli works at a hospital together with his wife, who is also deaf. And Wilkis Tanyabo brings us that amazing story.
There are many sides to Francis Kaleli. On the one hand, he is a father, a role he takes great pride in. On the other, he is a treasured employee, part of the support staff at St. Mary's Hospital in Langata. And this weekend, after 7 years of marriage, he will be visiting his in-laws to make a dowry payment. His life reflects the lives of millions struggling to make the best of the cards life has dealt them. But what sets Kaleli apart is that he is deaf. Kaleli has worked at the hospital for over 10 years, 6 of these at the labor ward. He strolls in and out easily, an accepted figure, but this acceptance has been hard-won. Francis Kaleli Kasani was born 35 years ago. The 8th of 10 children, he lost his hearing in a bizarre incident.
There's a sister of mine. When she was getting warm water to the bathroom, I was young at that time, so I was just running and we collided, and that's when the water poured on my face, and that's how I became deaf.
Kaleli attended a primary school for the deaf and went on to a vocational school. Afterwards, his parents were concerned that he was not ready to take on the rest of the world.
But I was not handicapped in that way. So with time, they get to know that, oh, I can do it, so I can visit. Oh, my son, he can do it. So I told them I can also take care of myself because I also have my life and I can also lead it.
And so he stayed at home for 5 years, doing odd jobs, until a friend who worked at St. Mary's Hospital asked him to send in an application. Kaleli told nobody about his job interview. Only when he arrived at the hospital with a panel of interviewers realized he was deaf. He secured the job and embarked on the new chapter to the amazement of his family.
My parents even had refused that I should not apply for a job here. They thought maybe I could not. So then my brothers went and told my parents, your son got a job in a hospital. And now they told me, that's your life. You can achieve, the sky is your limit.
While all this was happening, Kaleli also met the love of his life.
Wow. Okay. I met my sweetheart in Karen. That's a technical school for the deaf. I met my sweetheart when I was working. It was on a football match. We had met. Then we just met. That was the first time we started, talking. And later we started, writing each other. We started writing letters to each other.
Elizabeth Mbithe was also born with her hearing intact, but when a sharp object pierced her ear, she lost most of her hearing. They got married in 2006 and had 2 children, neither of whom is deaf. Elizabeth also applied for a job at the hospital and now works at the postnatal unit. Like other working parents, they sought a helper to mind their children while they were at work. But unlike others, they turned to a deaf house help.
So this is why when we got our second, we preferred a deaf, somebody who is deaf, who can sign and also help us so that we are able to communicate with our own children. The first, at 4 years old, could not sign, but this one, even at 2 years, she can sign very well. So that's the difference. We want to compare that.
Night Anyango was born to a deaf family that struggled to make ends meet. She idled at home for months before securing this job. She hopes to become a chef.
Now at least I'm catching up with the life. At least I will save some money and also get to pay the school the fees arrears that I have to pay so that I'll get my certificate.
There are 7 deaf people employed at the hospital, each contributing to changing the perception towards deaf people.
We give equal opportunities to everybody because actually we believe that maybe when he is here and he is able maybe to know whatever happens in the hospital, he can also even assist us in dealing with those patients who are deaf.
But here at home, they are not deaf people. They are simply friends, parents, employees, people trying to make the best of life. And as long as they can make themselves understood, life is not so bad. It often appears as if the deaf are trapped in a cold, dark world where they are unable to communicate with the rest of the world. But sign language enables them to have their voices heard, allowing them to live full, vibrant, satisfying lives. Wilkis Danyabwa, KTN in Nairobi.
Mentioned that the Chief Justice was holding a press conference at the Supreme Court, and among other issues that he has talked about is the fact that nobody will deter him from performing his duties as the Chief Justice of Kenya. Now, let's hear more from KTN's Rita Tinina, who is at the Supreme Court right now. Rita, what is the latest that the Chief Justice has mentioned in his presser?
Well, Joy, the Chief Justice who addressed the press conference, he was flanked by 3 members of the Judicial Service Commission as well as the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary. And the main message in his strongly worded statement was that no one will deter the judiciary, as you mentioned there, in performing its duties. In recent days, the judiciary has come under attack from Parliament in the supremacy wars between Parliament and governors. And Parliament, both the Senate and the National Assembly, were accusing the judiciary, especially the court in Kerugoya and also here at the Milimani courts, of issuing injunctions, what those politicians termed as unnecessary injunctions. 2 injunctions, one that reinstated Embu Governor Martin Wambora, who had been impeached by the Senate, and another that stopped this governors from appearing before the Senate. And so Chief Justice Dr. Willy Mutunga says he welcomes that debate, he welcomes the criticism, but he says no one will deter the judiciary from performing its duties. He cited the threat by the National Assembly in this whole debate, the supremacy wars between Parliament and governors. Parliament had threatened to cut the judiciary's funding by 500 million. And in his statement, the Chief Justice saying if Parliament does that, that is yet to be approved. But he said if Parliament does that, it is the common wananchi who will suffer. He said perhaps the judiciary might be forced to close some courts in various parts of the country. He gave the example of the judiciary as well as Parliament. He says Parliament only sits for 3 days a week and is only based in Nairobi. He says the judiciary sits throughout the week and there are courts all over the country. But despite that fact, the judiciary only gets 16 billion shillings a year while Parliament gets 20 billion shillings. And so he was reaching out to Parliament saying that they had better be wise and not slash the budget of the judiciary, saying it is those who will be seeking justice who will be affected by that move. That press conference has just concluded a short while ago. The Chief Justice also saying that he or the Judicial Service Commission has powers to direct any judicial officers, that is judges, on how they will should or rather rule in their judgments. He also said that politicians perhaps should not pick issues with individual judges or the institution. He says what should be of concern is the rulings that come out of the court. He says anyone is welcome to criticize, analyze the rulings that come out of the court, but he says do not touch individual judges and do not touch the institution of the judiciary. Back to you, Joy.